Next, let us study about respiration. So the process of respiration is basically a metabolic process which involves breakdown of food to release energy. We ingest the food, and this food, after undergoing digestion, is broken down in our body, which releases energy. And this process of releasing energy from the breakdown of the food is known as respiration. This energy is utilized by our body to do different types of works. So here is the diagrammatic representation of respiratory system, which shows that it begins with the nasal cavity with nostrils in front, and further it leads to our throat, which is having trachea, and finally it ends into our lungs. Now, let us study that how respiration takes place in human beings. So in human beings, cellular respiration takes place, which is a complex process. Glucose, that is 6-carbon molecule, in the cytoplasm, glucose basically breaks down into pyruvic acid, that is a 3-carbon molecule energy. This pyruvic acid reaches the mitochondria, and in the presence of oxygen, it breaks down into carbon dioxide, water, and energy is released in the form of ATP. The type of reaction that takes place in the presence of oxygen, that is known as aerobic reaction. Whereas in anaerobic reaction, there is absence of oxygen or there is lack of oxygen. In anaerobic part, this pyruvic acid is basically broken down into ethanol and carbon dioxide, and energy is released. In muscle cells, in the lack of oxygen, this pyruvic acid, the 3-carbon molecule, breaks down into lactic acid and energy, and this is the incomplete breakdown of the respiratory substrate. Lactic acid is a 3-carbon molecule, whereas ethanol is a 2-carbon molecule. So let us see a diagrammatic representation of passage of air in humans. When we breathe, that is when we intake the oxygen, and when we exhale the carbon dioxide, the passage followed by the air in the humans is shown here in this diagram. So when we breathe, that is when we breathe in, intake the oxygen, the air basically enters from the nostrils. These nostrils further lead to nasal cavity, which is lined by epithelium, which helps to moisten and it makes the air warm. Also, it is having some hairs which helps to make the air that is going inside the body dust free. These nasal cavities further leads to pharynx, and pharynx is basically a tube-like structure that leads to the trachea. Trachea is also known as windpipe. This trachea is having an aperture that is known as glottis. This glottis is opened all the time because it is basically providing a passage for inhaling and exhaling. But this glottis, this aperture, muscular aperture, closes at the time of swallowing of the food so that the food do not enter into the trachea. Trachea further leads to bronchi, which divides into 2 bronchioles, and it leads to alveoli. The alveoli are present in a bunch, and it is known as alveolar sac that is present in the lungs, where the exchange of gases take place. The oxygen diffuses into the blood, and with the blood, this oxygen combines with hemoglobin, and with this in the form of oxyhemoglobin, it is carried to different tissues of the body, where this temporary compound oxyhemoglobin breaks down and oxygen is given to the cells of the body. Similarly, carbon dioxide combines with hemoglobin and forms carboxyhemoglobin, which follows the same reverse pathway, and it is exhaled out of the human body.